Welcome back to the Puck Bunker. I'm Rocco Zappia, joined as always by my co-host, the man who is rumored to be one half of legendary DJ group Daft Punk, Darren Boyce. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Listened to Around the World again this morning.
Well, speaking of around the world, that's a great segue into our topic today, because we are going to take a trip around the world over to Czechia and Slovakia, which are the hosts this year of the 2025 Hlinka Gretzky Cup, which kicks off bright and early, if you're in North America, bright and early tomorrow morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Group play begins, and Hlinka is the start, really officially, of new viewings for the new scouting season, for the new draft season. So things are really getting underway. We did our best to make sure there was no off season here. However, we're in the dog days of August when it comes to hockey news. So it is exciting to be able to have some new games to watch this week. Boys, let's just jump right into it. We're going to cover today guys that we're excited to watch. Some of these players we have scouted and we're very familiar with, particularly the Canadian team, naturally, and some of the other top guys in the tournament. That said, this is going to be our first look at a lot of these guys, so we're not going to be maybe as in-depth in our commentary about these players, more so kind of just a discussion on the guys that we're sort of looking forward to viewing, and guys that other people, friends of ours in the industry and other people that you guys might read or watch, have mentioned as well. So let's start, boys. We're going to start at home. Let's start with Team Canada. How's that sound?
Sure. Before we start, though, I want to give a shout out to our friends at McKean, specifically Link, for he has a good article on the U.S. team, and Brock Otten, who speaks about pretty highly on the Canadian team. Those are pretty informative guys to look at for this tournament. So shout out to them.
Hey, I don't want to be caught giving too much credit to Link here. We got to keep that noggin of his being able to fit in one of these screen windows. But no, Darren's right. They did great stuff. I think that's Link's actually first article for McKean. So congrats, Link, on getting that spot, and great job on the first article. We are friends of Link. We love him, so we'll be paying attention to his stuff all year long. But with that, Boyce, I'll turn the floor over to you. Who would be the number one player you're most looking forward to watching here starting tomorrow for Team Canada?
Okay, we're going to get the top guys out of the way here. I mean, Keaton, Verhoeff, and Landon, DuPont are probably the two, I would say, the most prominent we're probably looking at here. We've already talked about Verhoeff. He should be dominant in this tournament, I think, in terms of just shutting things down. I think he should be the best defenseman in the tournament. And then Canada has Landon DuPont also on the right side, who is a year younger than him and an elite all around. He's an elite offensive defenseman, and I don't see any other team in this tournament having the D core that Canada has. So we'll get them out of the way. I think those are two pretty simple answers there. You want to speak about them for a second?
Yeah, I mean, those are definitely the two most high profile names here, I believe, for Canada. You have Verhoeff, who there seems to be some kind of narrative being created that he's contending with McKenna for first overall. We'll see if that narrative holds any water by the end of this week. If he truly is dominant and he's taken a step in certain areas, we'll see. Right now, I think it's a one-horse race for first overall, but I would say that Verhoeff has a pretty good chance to establish himself as the best of the rest by the end of this week, and maybe give himself an inside track at second overall. And as for DuPont, I mean, he's the next guy in the whirlwind media coverage. We're on these kids when they're 14 years old as the next guy, but he's lived up to every bit of the hype so far. And, I think that might be a guy who could challenge McKenna for first overall this year, really, if he was available. But another year for him, but someone to look forward to. Now, you mentioned how strong Canada's D-core is, and I think, Ryan Lynn's going to get some attention here as a pretty high octane player on the right side. But someone that I like to highlight is Carson Carels. Canada, ironically, because everyone needs righties for the most part in the NHL, Canada actually only has 2 lefties here on this roster for the Hlinka, and only one of those in there really has any argument to be in their top 4, and that's Carson Carels, who I think is going to get a pile of minutes and a pile of opportunity in this tournament. And I think this is a name that we should get used to being bandied about in the top 10 discussion. I don't know that I've seen enough of it for my liking yet. He's certainly one of the 10 best players that I've scouted so far, in between seasons, really, since the 2025 draft and leading into this tournament. Very, very mature game, can give it to you at both ends of the ice. I think this is a guy that's going to start turning some heads. And up front, 2 guys I'm interested to see for different reasons. Tynan Lawrence likely is looking to be probably number 1, at worst number 2 center for this team, probably heavily leaned on. But I'm looking forward to see him on the same team as a bunch of these Canadian guys who are in the CHL, because he's obviously in the USHL. So it'll be one of the only times that we get to see him against the best quality of competition before he rips up the USHL for the next 9 months. So I'm looking forward to that, to see if this guy looks like he has top 6 center potential at the NHL level. By all accounts, he does. But I'm looking forward to seeing it on the same ice as some of these guys that we know are top guys. And another guy that I'm curious about is Ethan Belchetz. Very impressive rookie season. Obviously a ton of size and some skill to go with it. I think this is a guy that we can expect to take a big jump in how he looks this year. I think we're going to see a guy that looks like he has a little more skill than we necessarily saw at times last year as a rookie in the league. So I think he's going to be well over a point a game pace this year, which is about double his numbers from last year. So there's a lot of talk about him as a potential top 5 pick, and I'm interested to see how he looks up and if he can kind of keep up with the pace of the more highly skilled and flash players here.
So I'm interested in him too. I do worry about his pace, and I worried about his pace last year. I also don't know if I can guarantee he's going to get a point per game in Windsor. Like, that team's really good. So it's possible he might not get enough ice time for that. Now, however, aside from this is about the Hlinka tournament and what I want to see from him. So I'm interested in seeing how he looks. He should be physically dominant in this tournament. There's a lot of smaller guys out here. You want to see him be that physical presence out here, and you want to see, as you said, if the foot speed keeps up. He's a guy here that could have a really good tournament and really solidify him, high in the draft rankings here, at least to start the year. But this is also a guy, if he struggles a little bit, that he might fall down a little bit. Like, this is a big tournament I think for him, this is a huge tournament for him.
I completely agree with that, because it's like we're saying, like, you're going to get to see him against the top players who have elite speed and elite skill. And it's okay, now you're on the same ice as them. How do you look? Because, Windsor is a good team, and maybe an easy point of game projection is a little rich for me. But, from my end, having said that, but I think it's possible even on a pretty deep team, but he'll have the opportunity to dominate smaller players or lower in the lineup guys at points in the OHL, whereas here you're going to get to see against the other top players. So it's going to be a little more indicative of where the skill level lies amongst his true comparables.
Yeah, and you want to see him dominate these guys on the other teams. Like, he should be better than all of these other guys for the most part that he's playing against. So you want to see that. You want to see that size kind of skill template, actually come to fruition here and see it on the ice against guys his age. So that's a guy I'm interested in this tournament. A couple guys I'm going to give the Sarnia Sting some kudos here. 2 guys I saw a few times last year: Alessandro Iorio. You and Rocco South really like him. I think that's just.
I wonder why, Darren.
Yeah, I wonder why. So, I mean, when I saw him this year, he played both center and wing. He's kind of played all over the place for Sarnia. I think he's actually quite a skilled playmaker. Like, I think he's a very skilled player. Now, again, Sarnia was really playing. I mean, every game they were playing from behind in terms of they just didn't have the talent of the other teams. I thought he got a lot of ice time. I thought he played pretty well in those situations. I think this is a guy they're going to rely on a bit here. Kind of plays everything all over the ice pretty well. So I'm interested in seeing how he's utilized. Another guy's Beckham Edwards. He's from the London area. Good shot, and he's fast. And he's already 6'1". So, I mean, this is a guy who, again, I think when his first 3 or 4 games in the O, he had 4 or 5 goals. So, I mean, he kind of just jumped into the league and was scoring right away. So I'm interested to see how he does. Again, 2 guys I've seen kind of play, again, I'm not going to say just a lower end team in the OHL. So again, they weren't really put in prime situations to succeed. I want to see them here in a team where they're going to be on a winning situation and how they perform here. And Sarnia should be better this year anyway. So, I mean, they should have a better team, and these guys can both, they're going to get the ice time to have good years, both these guys. And they're going to get, I think they're good enough that they'll actually win some games this year. So they're 2 guys that I'm really interested in here.
I like that you brought up the point of, I mean, you said it a nice way, but they basically played with shit, surrounded by shit players for the most part last year, right?
The teams are playing are better than them. Like, it's just they're young. Like, they're a young team.
Yeah, I know. I'm being a bit of a dick here on purpose, just for the sake of a joke, but it is something. There is something to be said about that when you're getting out of a situation and surrounded by more high-end players, and how you can look. An example of that last year would be Brady Martin, who played on a very mediocre Sault Ste. Marie team and was one of the few threatening scoring options on that team. And he was being talked about mostly in the 10 to 15 range overall, leading into their playoffs, leading into the U18s, really. And then he got an opportunity on Canada's first line, played lights out, obviously, and the rest is history. He's a 5th overall pick. So that's a good point that you mentioned about those guys who were on less competitive teams last year, getting to play with and see how their skills, how they do when they're playing with more talented players. There's 2 more guys on Canada I'd like to mention before we move on and risk making this a true homer show, even though we're going to wipe the floor with Alias this week. And I want to go out west. Shout out, speaking of Rocco South, hey, shout out to the Islanders Discord group keeping me in check. You know, I know I have a bias for big players, and I got called out on that, and he sent me the screenshot, and I thought that was kind of funny. But we talked about this on our show before. We all have our biases, and size is definitely probably the biggest one, no pun intended, that I have. So let's talk about Mathis Preston, because this is not a guy who would fit into my typical mold of a player that I like, not being the biggest guy, but he was extremely hard not to love when you watch him play. This guy is absolutely electric, and I'll say it again, absolutely electric. So if there is a small guy that's gonna win me over, it would be Preston. I do currently have him in my preseason top 10. Not to spoil that, we will put out a preseason list here after the Hlinka, and we have a better idea of what the fuck we're talking about. But I have watched Preston a bit, and I've been really impressed. He's got a ton of upside. He's a really fun player to watch. I think this type of tournament is going to suit his skill really well. And the other guy I'd like to mention, because I want to be on record that I'm on this guy's hype train in early August, and that's Cooper Williams, who is giving me a lot of Jake O'Brien and Beckett Seneca vibes, in the sense that they are essentially incredibly underdeveloped at the start of their draft season, with a lot of rawness to their game, but a pile of offensive upside. And that's something that we saw from Seneca in flashes during his draft year. The first half, he looked like more of a later first round pick. And then the second half in the playoffs, he just, started filling out and being more confident and being more dominant and more consistent in his play. And Jake O'Brien, very similar story, struggled to put up points early in the year, which we were completely correct about, was not really his his fault, and he would be on pace for over 90 points, and he almost hit 100.
He wasn't exactly playing with the highest talent at the start of the year either.
No, exactly. No, exactly. And he had some issues, again, consistency a little bit raw, but he got more and more dominant, more and more comfortable, added some elements to his game throughout the year. And by the end of it, you're looking at what was 8th overall pick, right? Another top 10 pick. So if there's a guy right now who I've seen elite prospects right now is, I think, 30, 35, 38 guys in their consolidated list, which is what I like to kind of use a lot of the time because it averages all the other outlets. And I've seen 30, 32, most of those guys. And of the guys that they have ranked kind of a little bit lower, that's the guy that stood out to me as, okay, there's a lot of upside here with this kid to really move up the draft board as this thing gets going. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how Cooper Williams does. So, that's a Canadian team. Canadian team is obviously stacked in terms of draft talent.
We can talk about the whole team if we wanted to. One more thing to add about that team. Who's going to run with the net? Because we literally don't know who's going to be their goalie.
Well, that's a typical story for Canada.
Yeah. So I think that's something to also look at this turn to see which of these goaltenders end up getting the net, because then whoever wins the net here is going to obviously have, the U18 tournament. Like, they're going to get the shot there. This probably means that they can get a World Junior position as well. It's just something to look for, because I don't think any of these guys are really running with the job right now. I don't think there's anyone really leading. Like, I haven't heard anything either, which one of these guys is like a clear number one. And I mean, Betts didn't really play for Kingston last year. Schobel or whatever didn't really play for Kitchener last year. Essler played a bit, but like it's not. But he was on Spokane, who was a really good team. So I mean, it's just I don't know who the starter is. I really don't.
Well, no, and we'll find out soon enough. Usually the guy they give it to in game one is the guy that at least had the best camp and maybe has the inside track on the job. That said, I fully expect a situation where multiple guys are given a game in a short tournament, especially with goaltending. I firmly believe, when you have guys that are close, like, it's international tournaments, every country's top 2 or top 3 goalies here, right? So aside from maybe a team or two where there's an obvious really good goalie, there's not a ton of difference in terms of these players' skill level in net. So I'm running with the hot guy. Whoever looks best throughout in the first game, that's who gets the net for me.
The other thing that I'll point out, if somebody runs with the net here, has a good tournament, it will really bump up their draft stock just because they played for Team Canada and played well. We've already seen that in the past. It seems to bump up guys' draft stock all the time. The
thing with goalies, though, is that I would say that's not just a Canada phenomenon. I say that, like, this tournament is a great tournament for a smaller country goalie to make a name for himself and take a lesser skilled group or maybe a surprising team to a bronze medal game or something like that. Pradel stood out last year, big time for us. He played some great games in there for Slovakia, got peppered with shots, and that put him on our map at least. So
if I'll say, it's reflective though of like the high level some of these guys can play at when they're playing teams that are better than them. That's what I get out of that. So it's not, you're still going to look at the track record of these guys over the year. You still want to see that these guys are still performing against whatever competition they're against or higher competition. But it is reflective, like, hey, like, this guy can step in. He's playing a team of high draft picks that is way better than their team, and he looks very comfortable. Okay. The problem with the Canadian team, like, we play for Team Canada, even the US a bit too, that happens at times. When their teams are really good, yes, it's like, again, it's great that their goalies like had a good turn. They put up great numbers. It's just a little bit harder to get the reflection of what their high level is. You don't really know from this tournament. What you do know is that they play really well with a great team in front of them. That's what you can get from this, which is a skill set in itself. I will admit that, because some guys are not good under pressure that way.
Well, it's also too, like, there are some goalies who would give up more stinkers facing less shots. So there are
Yes.
goalies who are not equipped to handle 16 to 20 shots a night. They need 28 to 32 pucks or more to find a groove. Craig Anderson, I remember being like that. The more rubber he faced, the better he got. And if you're telling me, like, as a Sens fan, if you're telling me, okay, the other team's putting up 50 shots tonight, I want Craig Anderson in the net every time because I know I'm getting 48, 49, 47 saves out of him. And conversely, when it's a 20-shot game, he might give up the same 3 goals. Either way.
I'll go back even further. Curtis Joseph, that was a guy who was like that. He got like 50 shots. He was unbelievable. If he had like 20 to 22 shots, he'd give up like a couple just bad goals every time.
I completely agree. And equally, there's guys like, and this is a bit of an easy example because he's the best goalie of his era, but Carey Price was perfect on that. Now, he obviously could have 50 saves games playing behind some pretty bad Habs teams in his day, but you get him in Team Canada, and it's all of a sudden he just turned into this like automatic robot that just makes all the easy saves and swallows up all the pucks and traps everything with the crest of his jersey. And so there's guys that can do it both ways, but I agree. Goaltending this is a perfect tournament for a goaltender to make a name for himself. I remember when the World Juniors, when it was in Toronto, the McDavid year, and they had Slovakia in the semis, and Canada beat them, but the goalie, I forget what it was, 40 saves, 50 saves, something. It was a lot. And at the end of the game, the entire ACC or Scotiabank, whatever the hell it was called, the entire stadium is just chanting, "Goalie, goalie, goalie," which was really cool. And the goalie, he took his mask off and gave a little salute to the crowd, and the crowd went nuts. But there's an example of a guy who was out of nowhere just completely taken over. I know it's World Juniors, but it's the same concept applies, a short international tournament, and really making a name for themselves. So I agree with you there in that sense. Do you want to move on to the United States?
Sure.
Real excited about it too, Dan?
I am very excited. No, so the guy I am interested in here is, I gotta say his name properly, Brooks Rogowski. I think that's how you say it. Plays for Oshawa. Massive human being. Massive. Believe he plays center. So if we look at the draft last year, look at a guy like Jack Nesbitt, went way higher than we thought he should have. We had him in the first round. We went higher than we should have. It's notable how much teams really value size up the middle. So this guy should be an intriguing prospect to teams. So this could be a guy that if he has a really good tournament, could really fly up boards. Now there's some other guys. I mean, if we really is he going to more fall under the Jack Nesbitt, go close to top 10, or is he going to fall under the, maybe the Hayden Papanakis where he's kind of in the second round, something like that? I think he's a better skater than both of these guys. I think he looked good at the end of the year, and I think he actually has some pretty good skill. He just was playing on a team that was pretty loaded, so he's not going to get the prime ice time. So, I mean, this is another guy that's kind of primed to have a pretty good year. I don't think, again, Oshawa's not bad. They did lose some guys, but they should still be a decent team. So, I mean, this is a guy, again, he's going to stand out in this tournament because he is bigger than everyone else. There's not many big guys up front in this tournament. And maybe I'm the guy that everyone else should be getting mad at for the height thing, because I think I say it more than you. I actually care about it more than you. I think I do.
Darren, I'm happy playing the idiot villain role. That's fine. I've been doing it my whole life.
Look, 6'6" skill versus 5'11" skill. Take the 6'6" skill. Like, that's just what's going to happen. I hate to say that to people. I'm going to keep saying it, because if they're the same talent level, the guy who's 6 inches bigger will be better. That's just what's going to happen.
That's
So
just how it goes.
yeah, exactly. So I'm interested in him. Like, I think again, I want to see where he's at because I thought he looked I thought he looked dangerous at the end of the year anyway. And I mean, from what I've read about him and that, like, I mean, that showed a lot of improvement from where he was early in the year. So, I mean, that's certainly a big tournament for him, I would say. I'll let you say the other guy because I think we have the same guy here.
What? Okay, I've got a couple guys here.
All right.
Well, you're talking about Klepov.
Yes.
I assume. Go ahead, and I'll talk about 2 other guys.
All right. So Nikita Klepov, who just signed with Saginaw, so that's part of the reason that I'm intrigued about what he looks like. From all accounts, again, very skilled player, guy that can create for himself and others. So again, in this tournament, maybe this is a guy that we could see putting up a lot of points here, especially in a short tournament like this when the U.S. I don't think are playing the best teams here. So you could see a guy here that could put up a lot of points if he gets the ice time. So I'm interested in see what he looks like. I mean, he's not the biggest guy. I wouldn't say he's small. I think he's like 5'11", 6 foot. But again, intrigued to what he looks like, especially amongst these other guys who are playing in the CHL as well. This might be a guy to look at. It might put up a lot of points in the O next year.
Yeah, and that's very fair. It's interesting that they're considering him an import. But
yeah, I don't
Russian,
actually understand. Well, the OHL.
Me neither.
Listen, I'm just we're gonna go off tangent here. The Twitter's been hilarious this week because London signed an overager, which is like kind of bending the rules of the league. Like, there's just a lot of debate. Well, he hasn't played in the OHL. And
so how can he have overager status if he hasn't played?
Yes. So there's shout out to the Generals guy, the Oshawa Generals Twitter guy. He's all up in arms about it because
he doesn't get mad.
He's like basically the OHL just. Yeah. Well, he's like, when did the rules change? So there's debate as to, well, maybe, or I think it might have changed in COVID actually, because they allowed some guys in COVID to have overager years that they never played. And I think that's probably where this rules type of changed. I guess if you had played college, you couldn't come back and just be an overager. Like, that just wasn't like there's some rules involved here. Anyway, London signed another good player. No one knows who he is. He'll probably put up 100 points. So anyway, go back to what you were saying.
I don't know where I was. I'm just going to talk about a couple of guys on the American team. Darren, we always got to find a way to work the London Knights in here somehow, eh? Jack Hextall is a guy I'm interested to see. He is, a guy with some skill and playmaking ability. I guess I haven't watched him ton, but looks like a dangerous offensive player that should play well in this tournament. I don't have a ton of insight on him because, again, I've just kind of seen him a game or two and some highlights, but looking forward to see how he stacks up against some of the better players in this tournament, and if that offense can translate to more elite levels. And he's playing in Youngstown this year, so looking forward to seeing that against some of the CHL guys. Then there's a guy out west. I like the Western kids. It seems a guy from Medicine Schaefer, Gordon-Carroll. He's not even available till 2027, but I want to mention him because I think it's extremely noteworthy that on one of the better teams, and I know the States don't send necessarily their best team here, but they're still one of the better teams in this tournament. He's a 16-year-old. He's going to wear a letter for them at this tournament. He's going to wear the A. So I think that is that's pretty impressive, and it should give us an early look to one of the top guys for the 2027 draft, if you can believe that. That's a comment that we're making at this point already, but there it is. So looking forward to see how he stacks up against some older players, and I thought it was very noteworthy that they gave him a letter as a 16-year-old on that team.
Well, they gave DuPont one too. I don't know if that says more about them or the rest. Does that say more about them or the rest of the guys on the team? I don't know.
Well, it says more about them, I think. Like, I wouldn't say there was a lack of letter options on Canada, but DuPont's that good. So
he is that good.
The States aren't bringing their top team, so yes, maybe less talent to choose from here, but still very, very impressive and noteworthy that he is on the leadership squad despite being one of the younger players in the tournament. Do you want to? Let's cover Sweden. Sweden's got enough guys here. Let's go to Sweden next. There's really, I mean, and we can split them up how we want to talk about them, but there's a trio of pretty high octane offensive players for the Swedish squad. Oscar Holmetz, Elton, Hermansson, and Marcus Nordmark. You can find them ranked typically on most lists this earlier in the year, pretty close together. So I think this will be a very good indication of how they actually stack up, because we're going to see them obviously all together, and further to that, how the Swedish staff sees them in terms of ice time and deployment. I suspect all three of them will play pretty prominent roles, but I am interested to see how they are used, especially in close situations late in games and on special teams. Do you have you watched these guys much yet? Have you had a chance to?
I haven't. No, not all of them. No, starting to.
Yeah, no, and that's fair.
But that's why that's why we watch this tournament. That's why this tournament's beneficial, so we can actually watch these guys. Like, that's why I really enjoyed this tournament.
Yeah, they're great. The Holmetz is a very good two-way player. The Hermansson kid, he can really fire. He can really fire the puck, and the Nordmark kid, he's got pretty good vision, pretty good size, and nice power game there. So they each bring a little bit something different to the table. So I'm pretty excited to see those three guys on the same ice again. Hopefully they get to play against Canada there at some point and really see that matchup. But
so I have one guy I'm really interested in here. I took a little bit of a look at Malte Gustafsson. Well, let's talk about it. It's again another 6'4" defenseman who can skate. So he's left-handed, so that might not get as high on the board as he probably should. But again, this guy was playing J20 as a 16-year-old. He is he is a June birthday. So I mean, he's going to be one of the younger guys in the class here. He's already 6'4". By all accounts, again, and just by kind of the glance, I mean, he has good puck skills. He can move the puck. He's a good skater. Just makes some boneheaded plays. So I mean, like, he's 16 years old. So I mean, this is a guy that I'm interested in because, again, you just look at the body, look at the skill set here. He should get drafted fairly high, this guy, whether he's on boards or not. And now I don't know if, I mean, again, I want to see what he's like offensively in this environment. But is this a guy that's, is he going to play a lot? Like, is he going to get ice time in the power play? Can he run a power play? Like, this is a guy, again, if he threw up a lot, like, say this guy's in the J20 and throws up a big pile of numbers, like, this guy could really be a high draft pick. Just looking at the toolsy skill set here. He could also be very raw, and it's just, again, more of a second rounder. Yeah. But again, it's a guy to, it's an intrigue guy that I've seen here.
Yeah, and I haven't, and this is a guy that that you've watched that I haven't actually watched yet. So, but someone that's kind of circled on my list that I'm excited to see again. I've said this 100 times this episode. Excited to see him against the other top players for his age group. But raw, I've read some people's reports on him, and that's a word that keeps coming up is raw. And let's see what kind of development he can kind of make this year. But someone that by all accounts has a pile of tools and a pile of upside.
We've already seen, though, that a big defenseman with tools, even if they're raw, they go fairly high. These teams will still take them quite high. So it's again, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. So
But,
I mean,
but that could be the difference between, 14th or 15th overall versus 45th or 46th overall, right?
sure. But that is probably, again, just looking at the skill set here, that's probably the type of range we're looking at here.
Yeah, that's what it kind of seems. He's kind of screams like top 2 round pick just from what you read about him. He's described in the way that sounds like that's kind of where he'll go. But again, someone that I haven't yet had the chance to look at, which obviously will change tomorrow
Also
morning.
it'd be a good guy to track here as the year goes on for sure.
Yeah. I agree. But for me, the Swedes, and like I had difficulty ranking these three guys. I think I probably have it right now. I don't have my list in front of me, but I have it. Nordmark, Hermansson, Holmetz, I think is the order that I have based on my off-season viewings. So I'm thinking maybe that order might change, or maybe it won't. Maybe I am as smart as I think I am. Who knows? Someone you wanted to mention on Czechia was their goalie, so I'll let you. We can move over to Czechia and chat about him.
Yeah. So their goaltender, I believe he's their starter, Frantisek Politin. So he's Thomas Politin's brother. Now again, 6'2", 6'3" body here. One thing they look for him, very good at playing the puck. That's kind of a skill set you'll see that's unique for a goalie here. But again, I'm interested. This is a guy, again, if he's going to get thrown up against good teams, that his draft stock could really go up here. And by all accounts, he's a very consistent goaltender. Again, I haven't watched him closely enough to, know fully about, his technique and everything. But apparently he's very consistent. He's played at, in Czechia. I think he's been all around. So he's been their starter for their national team at his age group for a while. So it's intriguing that way. He is in Finland now, and he played really well in the U18 level. And actually did get games in the U20. So we'll see where that's at. I mean, if you're in Finland, like there is an opportunity here. I like how they develop guys. B, he could play at a pretty high level pretty early if he continues to play well. You could see him making maybe Liga or something like that, which would be very intriguing for a young goalie like this. So again, interested to see how he looks. Because again, you never know with these Czech teams, right? Like sometimes sometimes they bring like a high level team and then the next year they're absolutely dog shit. So I don't know what we're looking at with this team. So
because they're such a small country, they have a very lunch pail attitude to their hockey teams, very similar to Finland in that sense, where it's a team mentality. We win as a collective. We play discipline. We play hard, right? And the thing with that is those teams can have success in a short tournament if they have that one or two high-end players that can form a legitimate first line to compete against Canada, USA, and Sweden, who we know are going to have legitimate first lines in these types of tournaments, right? So the thing with Czechia is, do they have those high-end offensive guys that can help them? You got to score, so that can help them hang in games and maybe win games if their goalie stands on his head against some of the better teams. Now, it brings me into my point again about Czechia is not necessarily someone I'm looking forward to, but this is probably my biggest disappointment of the tournament is Simon Kadalicki. I'm sure I said that terrible. Kadalicki is probably closer to what it is. Either way, giant guy from Czechia is not playing in this tournament. Poor kid's appendix blew up, had to have surgery, and he is out for this tournament, which is awful because he would be the guy in that mold that I'm talking about that has the high-end skill to keep up, presumably, with these bigger teams. And this is someone that I was really hoping I'd get to see because I want to have the stones to put him in my preseason top 10. But I'm not sure that, he played in the Finnish U18 league last year, which is not strong quality of competition. And he absolutely ripped them to shreds, and rightfully so. but you want to see that against the best teams to see if that skill translates, or if you're just a giant fucker who's better than everybody at that level. So disappointed that we're not going to get to see him, but someone that I'm very high on early. That said, without him in the lineup, it gives some other guys on Czechia the ability to fill a role and go show everyone that he's not really the only prime offensive talent from this crop for them. Moving over to Finland now, and Finland, Slovakia, Germany, Switzerland, maybe not as much to pick from and talk about here, although Finland and Czechia have similar talent pools usually. But Oscar Hemming, the younger brother of Emil Hemming, looks to be a pretty dangerous player for them. Again, we're now at the point where we're going to chat about guys that we really haven't seen and can't really give a ton of firsthand opinion on, but guys that we're aware of and excited to see. So Oscar Hemming, I'm excited to see if he's got his brother's scoring ability as well, and how he does it. From what I've researched, he should be one of the go-to guys for the Finnish attack. And then Juho Piparinen, defenseman who is, I am told, criminally underrated by the scouting community at this point in the draft cycle. So someone that I'll be paying attention to as well. I've heard some first or second round grades put on him. So looking forward to kind of checking out those two guys and seeing what their game's about. Anyone that you're kind of going to be paying close attention to for them?
For Finland, Samu Alalori. Again, just great with the names. Gonna just, it's a pattern for me. I'm the beer league goaltender, loves a big defenseman who can skate a little bit. So again, I'm playing into that thing. Maybe I'm the one who should be criticized for liking size all the time here. Again, 6'2". So again, he's not huge, but he's a big guy who can move. He moves the puck and he can skate. He played in the under 18s. I mean, that Finnish team wasn't great, but I mean, he still played in that tournament. He looked fine, and he has some skills. He has skills here that can translate to, a high NHL draft pick. So again, this is a guy who, I've spoken about this before. If Finland has a good tournament, he's probably going to be playing a lot for them. And this is a guy, like, he could become kind of, oh, look, this guy's really good. Like, they made it to the final of this tournament, or they made it to the semifinals of this tournament. They perform well. And he's a guy that people are like, wow, this guy's good. And so this is a guy we could see jump up boards here. I think it's kind of a similar thing that we talked about with Gustafsson, though. I think there's a capability of this guy moving up, maybe not 14. I don't think he's that offensive. I don't think he has the offensive capability to really be there. But I mean, it's a guy who can skate, can move the puck. Those are guys you see go in the 20s to 40s all the time. Like, it's a guy you think that'll play and has. I mean, moving the puck again we probably even underrate that skill a little bit. I mean, just generally making a first pass out of the defensive zone to start a rush is actually maybe a higher valued skill than even we say it is, because it leads to no one scores 5-on-5 in the NHL, and most of your 5-on-5 goals come off that type of play. Is where the D makes a really good, breakout pass, breaking a rush, catching them on a change, something like that, and it's just in the back of the net because they get it up to their forwards quickly. So maybe that's something we should be looking at in general in a side discussion, but nonetheless, good guy to look at here, and especially if Finland has a good tournament, he could move up.
You're right. Puck movement is, look, you can't transition play in the NHL is how you win games. You win games by moving the puck from your end down to the other end most efficiently as possible, and defenders who can stop the rush and then turn it back up ice with a nice crisp pass. Jake Sanderson, Miro Heiskanen come to mind. Obviously, you have Cale Makar, but
we're not at that level. Not at that level with him. Not at that level with him, but still.
No. But those are the guys that. But those are the guys that are the most valuable because of how they can retrieve and transition and move the puck. And maybe we don't spend enough time talking about it. Maybe you're right in that sense, because maybe we feel it's a simple play that all pro guys should be able to make. But there is a big difference between a guy who can make the play effectively and a guy who can kind of break a play open with that type of pass as well, right? So as an aside, you're right. Don't mind that point whatsoever. I got one more guy I'm going to talk about, and then I'll leave it to you for the last two. Jonah Neuenschwander from Switzerland with a secret bank account. No, I don't know if he has a secret bank account just because he's Swiss, but Jonah Neuenschwander, he's available for the 2027 draft. This is a player I actually got the opportunity to see last year in Ottawa at the World Juniors, and not a guy I was paying a ton of attention to. Obviously, I was there to see more so guys who are available for that draft. However, you couldn't help but notice that there was 16-year-old, 15-year-old on the team last year at the World Juniors who actually didn't look out of place, which I thought was extremely impressive, to be that young and to look like you belong on the same ice as a bunch of 19 and 20-year-olds from bigger, more developed hockey nations. So he is someone that I think has a decent amount of offensive skill and should be expected to do a decent chunk of the damage here for the Swiss team. Obviously, teams will know to key on him. That said, if you're going to be an effective player in the NHL, you better learn to get to work past defenders keying on you, because that's going to happen when you're a skilled player. So looking forward to how he does. A lot closer to his age group. Again, he is a March 2009 birthday, so the 2027 draft, but probably the most intriguing draft prospect from the Swiss side in this tournament. And poor Germany and Slovakia, we'll leave them to the very end. But Darren, I'll let you chat about a couple guys on their teams before we sign off.
So Slovakia, I'm going to go back to the goaltender well here. I believe Samuel Hrenek is their starter. He was the under 18 backup to Michael Purdell. I think these guys are kind of spitting images of each other. I think they're very similar, actually. But I'm interested to see how he looks in this tournament. Again, Slovakia is usually a little bit undermanned in these tournaments. And the reason I liked Purdell last year so much is every time I saw him internationally, there is something to be said when a goaltender is nice and calm and confident against better teams. Like, he's not overmatched. He's never rattled, and he plays well against them. So I'm wondering what I'm going to see here. Again, I don't mind. I think this is, again, I don't mind the development method that these guys in Slovakia do. The under 18 team ends up playing pro teams during the first half of the year here. I think that's actually quite beneficial to these guys. I thought it was good for Purdell last year. I thought he played higher competition and played really well against them and looked very comfortable against them. Again, with the goaltenders, you're looking to see what if you have that type of ability, then we can work with you on your technique and stuff. Like, that's, again, the ability to read the play and stuff like that. So again, we'll see what he's like. I'm sure he has some more flaws or different flaws than Purdell has. It'll be interesting to look at him, though. We're a goalie friendly show, just like some of the other shows out there. So again, I'm always interested in what these goaltenders look like. And the last guy I have here, his name's from Switzerland, or not Switzerland, from Germany, Darren Rolsing. So this guy's it's fit in the pattern here. 6'6", right-hand shot defenseman who can skate a little bit. He also has signed with, forgive me, and I apologize for the name here, Winnetachi Wild, the Winnetachi Wild in the Dub. So this guy's going to play in the Dub next year. Again, this could be a guy that maybe has a similar type of rise as a Max Sinichka, something like that, where he kind of comes over, maybe is a little bit raw, but as the season goes on, it's like, okay, we can see this guy, there's a skill set here that teams like there's some, there's improvement as the year goes on. He can shut down some guys. I think, again, if you can skate at 6'6", you're probably going to get drafted in the first 2 rounds. I don't see how you don't. And again, if people want to like yell at me for that, then that's fine. But that's what he is going to get drafted in the first 2 rounds. Like that's probably what's going to happen. Like,
Yeah,
again,
well, okay.
if he can skate and move the puck, like if he can just move the puck decently. But again,
Yeah.
if it's just a complete grenade, then maybe not.
Top 3. I would say top 3 rounds. There's guys that fit that mold in deeper draft years that if they don't have a ton of offense, but they're still big and they can skate, they can go later in the draft still. You're not going to like this example because it's Russian, but Bousov would be one. And I know Darren, he went 80 whatever because he's Russian, blah, blah, that's fine. But still
good Carolina pick again.
Great Carolina pick. So, okay, so that's kind of, we're covered here.
If we could say one thing too about these big defensemen, a lot of these teams' forwards groups are not huge.
Yes.
Like I think a lot of these teams are quite small up front. Now they're fast, but they're not big. So it'll be interesting to see how some of these big D are against speed, but they're smaller guys. I think so. You could see some of these big guys really have a good tournament because they're just physically bigger than all these guys. Like think of Merca last year, right? Like he just had a great turn because even Blake Fiddler was like that last year, right? Like he had a great turn because he's just physically bigger than all these guys. I kind of see that for like a Verhoeff. Like he's probably gonna have. He's just bigger than everyone else. Like they just he will. Like he should
dominate.
Yeah, but as an aside, you'll also see some with these bigger guys, like maybe they struggle with speed. So, I mean, that might be something too. Like, again, you'll get some evidence of what their flaws are. As an aside, you might get some with the forwards too. Like you might see some forwards struggle against some of these teams throw out a big D pair, like they might struggle against them. Like Canada struggled against the Czechs last year to score. And it was literally because Merca was on the ice the entire game and they couldn't get by him. And now, again, we liked Merca a lot. He has some flaws, though, obviously. Like he wasn't the top 3 pick in the draft. He was a top 10 pick. But, I mean, they struggled with the size reach that he had. So, I do find this tournament fascinating because you're going to, especially when you start looking at these guys more individually, there'll be some guys here that have really good tournaments because of their size. Like it'll really stand out. So I'm very excited to see who does end up being that guy.
Yeah, and I love this tournament too because it gives you such a great first look at some of the top players. Like we should have, don't hammer me on this, please, if I'm wrong, but somewhere around half or a little more than half of the first rounders for this year should be playing in this tournament. Obviously, McKenna's not in it, Rubrick's not in it, the 07 guys aren't in it. But you should be looking at about 15 or so first rounders who are going to be playing at this tournament, give or take a couple guys. So it'll give us a great baseline as to the depth of this draft class and the overall quality of this class past the obvious top names. This draft has gotten an early reputation for being extremely strong. I don't know that I would call it extremely strong. I would say from what I've seen so far, there's some pretty elite ability at the top, obviously, and there is some high-end, some small skill. And when I say small, I mean, somewhere between 5'10" and 6 foot. There's a lot of skilled wingers in that. And that's before we even have a bunch of guys who are going to make names for themselves this year. So I would say it looks very deep, although I think the first round is being given a little too much credit for its strength. I think the depth is more the big thing, and the high end in the top 5 I think should be very good, or in the top 3 for sure. Lack of premium positions available. Like last year was really strong for centers. This year is not at all.
Well, okay. From my limited viewings that I haven't watched like 90 or 100 guys yet, but for what I've seen, I don't think there's a ton of center depth, which goes back to what I was saying about a Brooks Rogowski. That's a guy who could really jump up the draft as a 6'6" centerman, has a really good year. That's a guy you could really see jump up. There is depth at right-hand defense. There is there's depth on D here. I think
There's depth everywhere other than center.
Yes. Well, I don't know about goaltending yet either. I haven't. I'm not.
That's fair.
Like, again, I actually really liked the goaltending group last year. I thought there was actually a decent amount of good, quality goalie talent. I'm not sure I've seen it yet, but I mean, I also haven't gone to Siberia yet and looked at everybody. So, I mean, that's probably where all the good guys are. They're probably not in the CHL. Sorry to hammer them on that, but that's true. But I mean, there does seem to be a lot more quality D depth here. Like last year, a lot of the D that we liked, they did have flaws. Like there were some flaws in their game. I feel from the guys I've seen, there's a few less flaws in these guys. I think there's a little higher floor with some of these guys. Like I think there's a little more, comfort. You're a little more comfortable with these prospects. Like, yeah, he'll play. Like I could see him play. Like he's going to be solid. Like it's not as much risk involved with some of these guys. I don't think.
I think last year defensively, they had last year had a ton of large shutdown type defensemen.
Yeah.
That kind of lacked puck movers outside of the top 20.
Yeah.
And I think that this year, like, I don't know, like, again, it's early, but like that like slaughterhouse death row of guys that went in the second round, Kettles, Sinichka, Rombach, Fiddler, Wang. Like, I don't know that I see a big group of mutants like that here, but I do see some defensemen who are probably better puck movers than those guys were at this point last year.
Well, I feel like this tournament, there's a few guys that have the big bodies that project to be just like these guys are even better. So, I mean, it's just that cool. Like, I think there's more D depth here. There's not as much center depth at all.
No, that's the big weakness in this draft is at this point anyways, is a center class, but everywhere else looks a ton of skilled wingers and some good defensive depth as well.
If we're relying on Robrecht to be the center, like I don't know if that's like smart. Like he hasn't shown he can play center yet.
Right. So other than him, like Tynan Lawrence might be the top ranked center right now.
Or
Belchetz.
Or the 6'6" centerman who's playing for the United States right now that moves up. Like that, this might be the early just idea of a riser here.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, again, he has to have a good tournament. It's like there's going to be a center that rises here somewhere that we probably aren't talking about yet. Yeah,
of course. There's lots of guys that are going to be very high picks that we have not mentioned their name even once yet.
But they'll be a centerman. They'll be centers. Like that's who they'll be because there aren't any. So like the centers will just be a premium value here.
You look at Edwards or Fitzy. I think those are maybe candidates for guys that can do that. Although they played wing a lot of the time last year as well. Like
Edwards isn't really a center.
It's a lot of that'll happen though in the O. Like a lot of guys will play wing in their 16-year-old year and then move to the middle when opportunity opens up. But that's to be seen, and again, that's why you watch. So, Boyce, we're gonna leave it at this. Who do you have? Give me your medal winners here, and your fourth place.
Canada's just winning the tournament. I don't really have anything else. Regardless, they're just the best team in this.
And who are they beating in the finals?
Sweden, I guess.
Okay, and who's your bronze medal?
Let's go. Let's take a look here.
Oh, there's only 8 teams, Darren. It shouldn't be too tough.
Let's go. I'm just going to give it to them again. I guess go out on a limb here. They're going to have a good tournament. Let's go with a big goalie tournament. Go Slovakia.
Okay. And Slovakia is beating.
They're going to finish like 8th. They're going to finish 8th. Like it's just
who's Slovakia beating for the bronze medal, Darren?
The United States, because they don't want to play.
Oh God, you can tell that we're friends here. I have in my bracket, I have Canada defeating Sweden in the gold medal. I have Czechia defeating the Americans for the bronze. So Canada gold, Sweden silver. Darren's got Slovakia bronze. I'll take a Czechia bronze. We're both on the host country bandwagon, and we're both, you know, bitter
Well,
little
you're on it.
Canadians.
I'm not on it. You're on it.
We're bitter Canadians who are not going to award the States a medal in our preview episode. We're going to give you guys 4th place. But with that in mind, we know you're not sending your best team and you don't really give a fuck about this tournament historically anyways. So that is okay. Thanks everyone for watching. We will be back between the round robin and the medal rounds. There is an off day on Thursday. So look for our next episode to be on Thursday, where we will recap the round robin and preview the medal rounds, see what we got right, see what we got wrong, and see which players have stood out. And I'm going to start pumping this now on the day after the gold medal game on next Sunday. On the 18th, we will have our full tournament recap featuring the aforementioned Brock Otten from McKean's to bring that conversation full circle to the end of the episode. So look forward to that. We are going to put a little pause on the in-depth prospect profiles this week to focus on this tournament. So look for 2 more Hlinka-based episodes, and then we'll get back into the deep dive scouting reports, which we all know and love at this point. So thanks for tuning in. Boyce, thank you for your time, and we'll see you guys soon.